Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome back to Tank Tycoon. In the previous video, I was trying to sell this one, the CB16, and unfortunately didn't find any buyers for it. That has since changed, and I'm very happy about that, because now I can actually get this thing sold, and I have already sold a couple dozen of them. Since then, I have made some technological progress, and interestingly found a new button. Something rather important. You see, if you go over to the engineering, you can actually adjust the armor. I was so focused on modifications here that I completely neglected the armor protection button here. That takes you to an overview where it says, hey, you can adjust the frontal, side, rear, top and bottom thickness of any particular vehicle. Of course, that comes at a cost, because the original vehicle was 14,150 tons. 14 tons essentially. This one's 18 tons because I am adjusting these sliders. So beware that those choices are going to have a serious impact on how much you might actually need to change other parts. You might want additional ammo stowage, for example. In this case, I have shell stowage. I have even more ammo stowage, but that all adds to the weight. So I might just go without additional ammo stowage and instead make a slightly heavier version of the vehicle. Hopefully not so heavy that the tracks refuse to carry it. So let's go with about 15, 16, 15 on the sides. Let's say 15 on the top as well. And then bottom thickness 10. So let's say this is the heavy version of this platform. If I were to use that, I'm not so sure that the tank tracks could actually carry that with the engine that I have installed in it. Because I'm maxing out at 26. So I would love to throw, what was it, a 300 horsepower engine in there, but that's now way too heavy. So this could... No, it can't work. It's too heavy. I'm over the amount that I can actually carry. This is also when newer engines are going to come in very handy, of course. So I'm at work. Actually, I have already created a new engine, the Wolsey i6, 73 horsepower. Unfortunately, with that, it might be a little weak. Your power to weight ratio is going to suffer. And because of that, your mobility is fairly awful. Operational range 3, road speed 3. So while it is nice to be able to adjust your armor, and for some contracts it's required, it might impact the capabilities of your tank. And unfortunately, this particular hull only has the Kinatar V2 tracks available. I cannot actually install any other tracks on it, as much as I would like. Nevertheless, I wanted to show you this because I feel rather stupid for not having seen that particular button before, and for mostly ignoring it. Part of me wants to just go edit engineering and max out all the sliders, but then you have an extremely heavy platform that generally won't move. And therein lies the problem, because some of these contracts, they desire a mobile tank. So you're gonna always, with tanks, try and blend between having firepower, having mobility, and having protection. It's this sort of triangle, and you can drag the dots, if you will, onto a particular point. But you're going to have to pick a spot between firepower and mobility, or between protection and firepower, or between mobility and firepower. But you can't have it all, unfortunately. However, I am working on the Onion Cruiser turret, and that might change everything, because that might very well make for a turreted tank that's capable, which is also powered by the petrol V6 engine. So I'm hoping that those two new breakthroughs are going to help me get a new tank that's a lot more capable. To prepare for that, I'm already using the riveting hull and making sure that the production hull is ready for all of these new innovations. Alright, let's make sure that we keep our research up. So we just researched this new engine. I can now go for the breakthrough mid-pass running gear. You can also get the air-cooled V12. This is for a very hefty tank. It's a 370 horsepower engine. That's a big one. However, if you want to go for something a little lighter, Or maybe more mobility options. Maybe the Typhon over here. It's a flat running gear. I'm not exactly sure what tank it will fit, but I do want it, because I think it might work with some of my tanks. Anyway, with that new petrol V6 engine, the Lancaster i6, I want to see if that'll fit into any of my current tanks. Maybe I can put that in this one. There it is. Because the previous one that I was looking at, the 73 horsepower, as you could see, was a little light. This one has more punch to it, but I'm not sure if we're really going to get moving, considering how heavy that hull is going to be. Of course, if you switch that back, and then add the Lancaster, you're getting at least a decent power-to-weight ratio. I mean, it's not minus 45, it's minus 34, so it still won't really win any prizes. Can it fit into our LK2? Nope. Unfortunately not. Can it fit into maybe the medium Hornet? Because right now, well, actually, it's running a 150 horsepower engine. I think going back to an 86 is a downgrade, but what I can do is make a new version of this component. Although I don't think that this tank has been sold in quite a long time, so they probably don't want it. What if I try and adjust the frigate instead? Because this thing still sells. It's fairly ugly. It's great at clearing trenches, it's poor at doing everything else, but maybe I can make a new design of this one. Yes, I want to save that as a new one. Regarding the parts, it's not been updated in many years, so let's make sure we're going to have a couple of different versions of this thing. Remove that, create a component, yes. So that one. That's going to be engineering. Now I can throw in that better engine. The previous iteration of the frigate, let's see what it had. It came with a 300 horsepower Liberty V12. So we're going to have to definitely throw in a big engine. There it is. But maybe I can do that with the more modern parts. So I want to create a new component for the engine. Yes. I also want to see what tracks I can get. It's Warhorse or Landship, or Tadpole or Centipede. We got a lot of options here. Of course, these are all going to have impacts on how many or how much I can carry. This is going up to 31, so this is already too heavy. This tank in its current form, and that's without any of the upgrades. Let's engineer the upgrade first. Let's engineer that different hull. Because the different hull is going to have different specs. There, improve the armor, please. Regarding armor thickness, we got 30 on the front. This thing can go up all the way up to 40, but you're looking at a very, very heavy tank. You're going from 21.7 to 25.9 tons. So that's a fairly hefty upgrade. Let's improve the rear armor just a bit, improve the top armor a bit, and improve the bottom armor a bit. We're now at 25,000 tons. As well, 25 tons, that is. When it comes to this, I'm going to go with the improved reinforced riveted assembly. We have the actuated semaphore, which is the most modern one. We also get access to a new radio. We're going to give this guy... Well, I'm not so sure about additional ammo stowage. Because the crew doesn't particularly like it. And yes, it does give you more ammo. But I'm not really sure if I've ever seen this as something that you really need. Also, I'm going to forgo this one. I don't want it, and I'm also going to forgo this hydraulic tail thing. Ideally, this will make it relatively light. It's still 4 ton heavier. 4 tons heavier. So yeah, it's still a little bit of a heavier tank, but that has to do with the fact that it is just more protected. You're looking at even a higher stealth value. That's interesting. 32 frontal thickness versus 30. Slightly higher on most accounts. Shock resistance is far better with this one. Okay, good. Go and engineer that part of the tank. Then, back to the design. We're going to add that to the design, and now I know what sort of weight we need to carry around, which is already 35. And that's, of course, not counting the engine yet. So let's engineer the engine using all those new parts. Because at the moment, it's using a Tier 1 Mark IV, but I have Tier 2 Mark 1. So I'm just going to upgrade everything to Tier 2. making sure it has the better parts available. And hopefully with that, it's not going to get too heavy. It might actually end up lighter. And you cannot add armor protection to your engine because it's on the inside of the tank, so that makes sense. Right now, this thing only weighs 3,900 versus 4,700. So in power-wise, we're getting better attributes, but for far less weight. I like it. The Liberty V12 300. Right, back to the design. This means I can now potentially still fit that in the tank with not tracks which are as heavy. You got the tadpoles, which go all the way along the tank, and they can go up to 39 tons. So that might move us into the direction that I want. If you want something enormous, you can go for the land ships. They can go up to 45 tons, or you got Warhorse sitting at 34. But I'm already over that, so it looks pretty weird, but that's never stopped me before. So the land ship one is an option. I would rather fit with the tadpole if I can. So let's create a new version of the tadpole tracks. Yes, I want to save the design. We're going to keep working on that. And now we're going to go with the Mark III. I don't really have too many Mark II parts, but whatever Tier 2 parts that I have, I will use. Go with the low friction road wheels, the strong sprocket, and the cooling vanes. Alright, so that is going to have to get engineered, but unfortunately we're a little busy. I do want to save that. We're going to go back, and that can carry 39 tons. Excellent. Now we're going to have various options for the central cab. Because I can have this cab right on here, which houses all of those machine guns. You can also make the case that might be a little too big and go for something like this, which doesn't actually house any machine guns, but saves you 1,000 kilograms, give or take. Or you can just go with an armored cover and just not have anything there. If I now add the turrets to the sides, so let's say, and this is a fairly recent upgrade one, the Mail Mark II. Or a combo. Yeah, let's make a new version of the combo. Because the combo is going to do both. It'll give me hard firepower with the main gun, and it's going to give me some soft firepower with that machine gun that's going to sit right next to it. The problem might be that it does not have enough firepower. I mean, it is not exactly going to be able to shoot out right the sides. So that could be a limiting factor of this particular tank. But, yeah, something has got to give. Okay, we're going to save that. We'll also have to engineer that, of course. How heavy did that get? It got a little heavier, by 400. Okay, maybe I can fit that. So that's the new draft. Oops, we're way too heavy. So the tadpole tracks are kind of bad, because they don't work. Not as well, anyway. Well, yeah, I do want to create a new version of it. Create a new component. That's going to be the Mark IV. Engineer that. Yes, I want to save the changes. This is going to be a really hefty tank, but it might sell because it's going to be more protected than pretty much everything else that I've had so far. So you're going to get up to that. You're going to have... Yeah, that's good. And you're going to have the cooling vanes. Save. Back. After a couple of these episodes, I'm feeling like I'm starting to get the hang of it. Of course, there's plenty of things that I'm not doing right. I hope that you'll excuse me for not perfectly knowing the game. But I too am still learning the game. And all of these new options that you now have. Firepower-wise, I don't actually have any newer guns. So we're just going to have to make do with either the 6-pounder, the 3-pounder... Yeah, I'm thinking of just going with this, the 6-pounder, trusty 6-pounder, and then a machine gun right next to it. So it could be the Lewis there. We are just about approaching our mass limit, and we didn't have any crew members aboard. We're going to need a commander. Good lord, how many... This is a bus. You can have tons and tons and tons of people on there. I don't know if I'm capable of adding enough command staff to this one. Because I'm not seeing another commander slot. So maybe having an armored cover here is a bit of a problem. And that could mean I need a central cab, but that'll definitely push me over the weight limit. This is an engineering challenge. If I go for the central cab... Yeah, I'm over. Crap. Okay, fine, it's going to have to be a cover. But how am I going to command this tank then? Because I got 4 for 6 commander points. Interesting. Let's see how far I can get. So we need a couple of gunners. Gunner 1, Gunner 2, Gunner 3. We need a loader, we need another loader, and we need a mechanic. And I'm looking for this icon with the one with binoculars, and I'm not seeing any additional ones. There's just no additional spots for the commander. Maybe I'm able to add this. We'll see. We got the capped shells, and I'm not really... No, I'm too heavy. Oh, crap. Crap. Okay. This means I probably have to go back to the engineering and adjust the Heavy Mark III version 3. Because I just added too much armor to it. It's now far too heavy. So that is... Where are you? It was the Heavy series, this one. It is work in progress, but they haven't actually started on it. So I can still adjust the armor and reduce weight on this thing. Oh, come on. Fine, we'll make a clone. Make a clone and we'll just engineer that one. So, armor thickness, a little less, if you please. Because the thing is just getting far too heavy. There. We'll just save that as the Mark IV, and the Mark III we'll pretend that never existed. Although it is currently in use, so the game's not going to allow it. Okay, back to this. That was the Heavy. It's now going to be the Heavy Mark IV. And now we get to start all over again. Fine. So you're going to get that better engine, you're going to get the better tracks. Maybe... Yeah, we'll just probably still have to use the land ship. Maybe I can now fit one of those, the central cabs, to house additional machine guns and maybe an additional commander. We're still going to go with the combos. It's the Combo 1 version 2, which houses one gun. No, I don't mean to do that. One of those, one oops. Go without the central cab for a second. I want to house another machine gun there, and another machine gun there. And now we are under the weight limit, so that's fine. I just now need to figure out what I'm going to do with the crew. If I add one of these, I am getting an additional commander slot. So now I should have the opportunity to add the commander, the rest of the crew. We're actually over commander points now. Gunner. Gunner, gunner, loader, loader, mechanic. Yeah, and sort of another mechanic. Crew awareness is dropping, but I do feel like I need another mechanic. Okay, so I would love to get this thing going, because we are definitely under weight limit for now. Alright, you're gonna get this. You're going to get the better tier 2 leaded fuel, and you're going to get standard automotive fuel. We're going to paint this thing camouflage. There. Now I can save this. And now we are under weight limit. This thing is definitely not particularly... Well, actually, it is fairly fast at 19. What was the original frigate doing? 17. Okay. And regarding protection, 30... 40 on the sides? Okay, well, I still have 40 on the sides as well. Interesting. Oh, those combos. I can still adjust the armor on these as well. Wait, I'm too heavy? What? Really? Why? No. Yeah, no, this is fine. This will run. This tank is fine. Save that tank. And we're going to save that as the Heavy Mark 8 Frigate Mark 2. Okay. Which, of course, it decided not to do. I think it might not have updated yet, because over here it says it seems to be fine. Fine. That's going to be a lot of engineering. Let's see if we can get that done. After a lot of research, the eggheads have finally come up with the turret. We finally have a turret. Of course, I'm instantly going to create my own component for this thing, because I want to make sure it adds, or it does exactly what I want it to do. Regarding the tracks, we have a few options. We got the centipedes, which I think look, I don't know, like you're giving a duck some tracks. I think the satyr tracks actually make a lot more sense for this one. And this should be well enough. This is something I can definitely carry. Unless I toss in a massively heavy engine. I mean, it would be fun if you could just throw, I don't know, a 300 horsepower engine in this thing, but that'll probably not fit. So let's go with the tier 2 engine, that Lancaster. And we're not quite getting where I want to be with power to weight ratio. We're not quite fast enough. Road speed is okay, but come on. If I throw in the Ricardo, we're definitely getting there, but the problem is the thing gets a little heavy. Therein lies the problem. The thing gets a little heavy. And that's without a gun. And you know, that's kind of the selling point of this tank, having a gun. So now we are over the limits. That is unfortunate. Thankfully, I'm not quite done with engineering all of these parts yet. So this means I still have some options. I can still go with some slightly different material, such as going over to the engineering once again. And this is where I can save some weight on this base design. I believe I did not change any of the armor values, nor will I. But I can toss out the additional ammo stowage. I can toss out yet additional ammo stowage. I do want to get the fuel stowage in there. But now we did actually save some weight. Oops. Not yet, people. Not yet. I want to see if that's enough. So that I can keep this tank under the limit. Yes, now we got under the limit. Road speed is very poor. It's only 7 with that engine. That is pretty bad. Can we now work with a different engine? Do we have a better engine that can actually fit this thing? Because like this 86 horsepower engine is just not strong enough, right? You just don't get enough juice out of it. You do get some slightly better road speed, but not enough. If you use this, you're getting 7. Cross-country speed's pretty good, but that road speed of 12? The road speed here is only 7, but transportability does go up. Because it has that very, very high power to weight ratio. So it'll probably accelerate quite nicely. The Knight only... Yeah, road speed of 3, we're not doing that. And this is probably a very, very old engine. We're not using those. So I'm thinking of just tossing the 150 in there. Like a Ricardo. But a more modern version of the Ricardo. Because I can engineer that. And with those new parts that I now have, maybe I can make this thing lighter. Right now it weighs 3.5 tons. So let's add all the tier 2 parts. Make sure that we get those better units in there. And now it weighs 3 tons. So that's definitely an improvement. Let's assign that. Then go back to design. Let's see if that changes the whole deal. Yeah, now we're definitely getting a little better. We're getting a road speed of 12, which still isn't terribly quick. But maybe with the additional things that I still need to get in there, I even have a little bit of room in order to get more armor onto the vehicle itself. Let's give me a commander. We're going to need 2 commanders? Okay, that's interesting. It's going to be a little busy in this tank. Surprisingly. We also need a loader. I kind of need a loader mechanic here. And we need another full mechanic. We actually have too many commander points. If I go commander loader? Yes. And then, ideally, you're going to be a mechanic. Yes. Go. And you're going to be a gunner. We're not fully maxing out the points, but it should be enough. And we're still under the limit. Capped shells. Leaded fuel. And paint this thing. There we go. Okay, so we still have about 500 kilograms to play around with. Which means I still might be able to adjust some of the parts. And of course, the cruiser turret is definitely something that I want to adjust. So let's save this. And if this turret gets 500 kilograms heavier, that's fine. So we can go to about 2300. Right now, it's already using the best parts that we have available. That should be fine. Here, yeah, this is fine. And over here we have the type of steel. So that's going to be a little bit more weight. Let's add a touch to the frontal thickness. And here a little bit. Rear thickness, just a little. And top thickness. No, we're going to keep it as such. Okay, back. Are we still safe? Yeah, we're still safe. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so this is going to be the new tank. This is finally the first turret tank. So this is the duck. Because I think it looks a little bit like one. Let's engineer that and see if there are any buyers. As a little aside, I'm testing out the new version of the frigate. This thing is so enormous that it does suffer a little bit when you're trying to zigzag from one port to the other. The firepower is for the simple reason that it doesn't have any turrets. It doesn't have, well, I mean, if you want to count that. It doesn't really have any turrets. It doesn't have any guns sticking out the front. And because of that, you're kind of stuck with a fairly weird thing. But I do, of course, use this thing, or at least I intend to have people buy this thing in order to start using them to cross trenches. In which case, this length of the tank comes in very handy. And for something this big, with this new engine, it's actually pretty snappy. It goes up to about 22 kilometers an hour, that is, and I think that's pretty good, considering the terrain that we're throwing it into. So, it might not be the world's prettiest tank, it's definitely one of the longest tanks, and, well, maybe we could just about make this thing work. As I was waiting for a lot of engineering and designing to get done, this trophy tank has appeared, the Odin Ausführung C. This is this is a delight, because this is a massive tank. It comes with probably mostly tier 1 parts, but this thing can still have a part on my surgery table, if you will, and we might be able to get some really weird upgrades to that tank. Maybe stick some bigger guns at the sides. Maybe make sure that it gets a little bit of a mobility boost. We shall see. Anyway, the duck is now finally able to get finished. It took me a little longer than I wanted. Simply, I was 20 kilograms overweight, I think, so I'm now a little under. Like, I'm using maximum mass limit. There's 15 kilograms left, so they might be able to bring food and water. And that'll probably be about it. And then we finally have a tank weighing 15 tons with decent mobility, decent survivability, decent crew performance. I'm hoping that the protection is, well, I mean, it's not going to be nearly as heavy as, for example, the frigates, which have, what, 30, I think, on the front? A compare feature would be great here. Yeah, they got 31 frontal thickness, but they don't have a turret. And that does, for some contracts, really weigh heavily. So finally, we got the duck. Let's design it. Let's design it. And then see if there's going to be anybody interested in buying that thing. The contract has sprung up. Unfortunately, I don't think the duck is available for this one, because they require a tank that's about 36 tons. The duck is not nearly that weight. This tank is relatively light at 14.9 tons, and because of that, they kind of hate it. The game does give you this sort of idea of, well, you know, that's not quite what we want. We want one of those. So I thought, oh, right. We still have the Heavy Independent. That is also a tank that I can now make. And I already had those support turrets. I can now also add the cruiser turret. So now I can have a gun. So this is a, a land ship of a tank. I don't know if I can have the right tracks for this thing. If I have anything modern enough to drive this whole thing around. I think I might be able to get away with it. But we'll just have to see about that in another episode. Thank you for watching this one. I hope you're enjoying the series so far. And I'll see you soon for more.